Hi, Lovey. You tapped into Black Girl Buffering, where healing isn't linear and softness is sacred. I'm your host, Millie, and I'm glad you're here. This one is for the still girls, the ones who are still healing and still learning. Let's take a breath and begin. Okay. Hi, guys. I am honestly doing something new. I am recording in the evening. I normally record on the ass crack of dawn. I'm not gonna lie, I do. I'll be waking up at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I'll get up while the sun is rising. I'll go up to the rooftop and I'll sit and chat with you guys. I only started doing them in early morning. I just felt like I felt more productive. I felt like I started off my day kind of just releasing things. But then sometimes I feel like that could be bad just because I feel like, say I'm having a good time in life and then I have my podcast episode and I'm not really in the place that my podcast episode is in mentally. So sometimes I feel like having a heavy topic to talk about on the start of the day can be a lot. So I wanted to try out, and also I procrastinated like I normally do, but I wanted to try out the evening and see how I felt kind of just releasing everything at the end of the day. So I'm still trying to figure things out, get my groove, do what I gotta do to get this whole podcast, feeling like home and feeling cozy. But today's topic, the title is The Power of Saying No. No, that's it. Just no. I want to make it real short and sweet. I don't really want this to be a dragged out topic because at the end of the day, no is a complete sentence. I don't really think, or I'm not a person who believes you need to explain your no. I don't think you need to explain anything you have going on. It's your personal life. But I do feel as though we need to just discuss it a little bit, especially because I have some boundaries of my own and I'd love to share them. Because I feel like a lot of people in my life really do sometimes look into the actions and the decisions that I do make, and they're just like, well, how are you standing on that? And it's like, listen, I don't know how, but I got 10 bricks I'm standing on right now, okay? But yes, today's topic is no. What that word means, how much weight it can hold, how much power we can give it and not give it. No is a very magical word. And I feel like it's a word that we don't use at our freest will. I feel like it has so much negative connotation to it, whether that be no with rejection, whether that be a no, from a proposal or whatever the case may be. It's just no one wants to hear no. And I don't think that we should always look at a no as a bad thing. Common things that I always hear is rejection is redirection. And I think you can look at that in every aspect of your life, no matter what decision or circumstance you're in. Rejection is redirection. So I just want to start off by talking about my no's, my no-nos, my no-no squares, and how I didn't always start being so stern and I didn't always start out being a person who said no. I'm the oldest of 5. So I feel like you can only imagine being a sibling or just even just being an older sibling in general, that no, especially as a child, isn't really in your vocabulary. It's not something you're allowed to say. And of course somebody can be like, well, you're allowed to say no. Of course you could verbally say it, but it doesn't hold anything. As a child, your no or your I don't want to do that really does not hold much weight as if you were an adult and you had more respect looked at towards you. So yes, I feel like before I was very sturdy with my no. My no's were with a lot of guilt if I did say it. Or sometimes I didn't even get to the point of saying no because I was so guilty. I feel like the only reason I was so guilty was simply because I wouldn't be looked at as reliable anymore. I wouldn't be looked at as someone that someone wants to call for help. I wouldn't call myself a people pleaser because even before therapy, before self, like me being self aware, even before all of that, I'm not going to sit there and call myself a people pleaser because it was never my intention to please that person. It was always like a self infliction that I was having just regarding, you know, making me feel bad, eating me up alive. Like my morals feel turmoiled, or my, what I believe in is just like, oh my gosh, it's eating me up alive, so I have to say yes to it, or I can't say no to this. Like I wouldn't be a right person if I said no. So for me personally, I'm not a people pleaser, but I do understand the mindset of those who are people pleasers. But lastly, it's just I feel like overall, I just didn't want to let anyone down. I didn't want to let anyone down. I just wanted to be able to control people's access to me and my capabilities without any personal anything going on, And that was so difficult. I feel like it is very difficult, especially when it comes to family, like saying no to family and being in a Caribbean household, or just being a Black household, just any household, it doesn't even matter, purple, blue, white, or anything. Being in a household where there's a lot of roles, child and parent, man and woman. It's a lot of roles, so boundaries could really be difficult. There's a lot of roles when it comes to religion and things like that. So no is not something that can be a part of people's vocabulary, unfortunately, just because of the circumstances that they're in. But yeah, I feel like overall, though, for me, before I was so sturdy with a no, I stood on the fact that I did not want to let anyone down, right? I was putting others before myself. Let's just keep it a being. After I figured that I have to put myself before other people, even if it does not have that other person's best interest at heart. I really just had to put myself, I had to really just think selfishly. And selfishness is a whole nother topic in itself. I also don't feel like selfishness should have a negative connotation either, because you're doing exactly that. You're choosing yourself. Like, who else would you choose, type of thing. But I feel like once I picked that, and I was selfish for a while, um, my no's no longer came with explanations, or hard feelings. My no's no longer came with an apology, or, my fault or my bad. They no longer came with that. My no was a no. I shoot. I send a reply. I'm not looking for a response, right? When you at your job and you telling your job about your PTO, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. I'm telling you I got a vacation from August 3rd to August 24th. I'm not asking you, can I take the time off? You feel me? So that's kind of how I look at boundaries, is basically, I'm not asking, I'm telling. So of course I'm going to ask and be aware of, hey, did you get that? You understood that? Whatever. But I'm not going to ask you to respect my boundaries. So now, as far as what I do now, my no's do not come with apologies. They do not come with, now of course, if I'm supposed to apologize, not supposed to, but if I'm in a place where accountability and apologies are needed, yes, I will. But my no's no longer come with an explanation. They no longer come with my fault, because half of the time it's something I can't control. It's out of my control, and that's okay. I feel like that's perfectly fine. So when it comes to setting boundaries, going back to the whole feeling difficult, not difficult, my bad, feeling guilty. I think that's such a common thing for people, is constantly having that person on your shoulder kind of whispering in your ear. It could be like an anxiety fairy, or it could be whatever the case may be, but something in your ear is just telling you like, no, like, they're going to think this of you if you say no, or no, they're not going to ask you, they're not going to talk to you anymore if you say no. You feel me? Like, kind of like low-key peer pressure, like, in a sense. Peer pressure in a sense. So I do have the textbook dictionary definition for setting a boundary. So let's read it together. What is setting a boundary? Setting boundaries means establishing limits and expectations for your personal space, time, and emotional well being in relationships with others. It's about communicating what behaviors are acceptable and unacceptable to you, allowing you to protect your needs and maintain healthy connections. So, what I take from that is no means no. Okay. Because let's diving into that, and tying that back in with the whole guiltiness, is telling someone, hey, I don't like it when you say this. Or, I don't like it sometimes when our conversations go like this, right? I think those are healthy ways to kind of bring something to someone's attention without that guilty, that heavy brick on your chest of like feeling like, I don't know how they're going to take this, Because guilt is common when it comes, guilt and boundaries are synonymous. Like, guilt is eats you alive. Like, guilt will really eat you alive, especially if you have a guilty conscience. Like, that would definitely eat you alive. But setting boundaries without feeling guilty is not second guessing yourself. Setting boundaries without feeling guilty is choosing you, being selfish and choosing you. But don't go into selfishness as already thinking of it as negative or whatever the case may be. It's literally just choosing what is in for your best interest and what is in your best interest. So setting a boundary without feeling guilty can be definitely difficult, especially the type of person you could be talking to: a boss, a parent, a lover, shoot, someone who did something extremely bad to you, you know. Setting that boundary with them, it could be very difficult. It could be definitely trying to swallow this hard ball. It's really hard ball to swallow. And yeah, I feel like we shouldn't be made guilty for choosing ourselves. Just because not everything also is a boundary. Sometimes it's really just for the time being. No does not always have to be setting a boundary. I feel like a lot of people take setting boundaries as such this, like, oh, like going back to that whole like, well, she thinks she better than, or not she thinks she better than, but not even that. I feel like a lot of people look at boundaries as just this, again, this stop sign, like this, you can't have access to me. But it's not that I'm saying you can't have access to me. I'm just saying, hey, I would like to control how much or how the access is given, how it's being used. So, just like, people go ahead and say it's a privilege to be in my life. And it is. I feel like everyone should not take that for granted. Like, it is a privilege to be in everyone's life. So, if I'm telling you no, it's not for forever. It could be for a temporariness. It could just be for right now or whatever. It could really be something as simple as, say, I have a cousin and she has anxiety. She likes to tap her pen, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. She tapped that pen all week and I was okay. That's something I know she does, right? I know it's not on purpose. She has anxiety, whatever. Friday comes. Oh, I'm hearing this tapping on the pen, but I'm low-key having not that good of a day, or whatever the case may be. It's just the ticket is getting to me on Friday. So what do? I'm going to, sometimes you don't it's not that serious and you don't have to say anything, but say like you're just having this crazy migraine, right? Like this crazy migraine, and just the smallest sound is like sending it through the roof. Simple conversation would just be going over to my cousin and just being like, hey, do you mind, just not tapping that for a while? You don't even have to tell her you got a migraine. Hey, do you mind? That's it. Like, whatever the case is, right? And something like that, I feel like a lot of people can't do because the guiltiness or because they feel like someone is going to think something or whatever the case is. And it's like, no, that's not the case. It's okay to tell someone, hey, can you just stop doing that for a second? Now, that don't mean that they're going to. No, but you did your part. You feel me? So, and that's always my biggest thing, especially when it comes to the boundary conversation, is you did your part. You said what you needed to say. So if that person starts getting out of hand, if they start getting out of hand, that's when it's like, okay, but didn't we have a conversation and I let you know specifically don't do this? That's why we saying that. You gotta save your ass. That's also why boundaries are here too. So it's just like it's kind of like a screen, like a hey. So when my feelings get hurt, and when I am starting to get that weird feeling or whatever the case may be, I can let you know, like, hey, I kind of let you know this, and you still doing this, that, and the third, right? So I went beside myself and went past the guilty feeling that I had for even bringing it up to you, and you still doing it, and it's like, whoa, you know. So at the end of the day, I don't feel like you should be made to feel bad for what's in your best interest. You wake up to yourself and your consequences every single day. So I feel like you should be confident and trust yourself because it is a better feeling. Nothing feels better than getting something off your chest that you've been holding in for a while, you've been bottling in, you've been privately battling for a while, this one thing that you've been wanting to tell somebody no for a really long time, and you finally did, and it's just a weight lifted off your shoulder, right? And that's all. So it's like once you get past the guilt and trusting yourself and trusting that this will be a good decision regardless on what the outcome will be after the fact, after that no, or after standing on business, and so you're gonna feel amazing. You're gonna feel amazing. You're gonna feel like, wow, what else can I do? So now, when it comes to getting past the guilt, getting past the actually having a conversation, now we got to get past the people actually respecting your boundaries, right? People actually doing their part. You did your part. Now they got to do their part. It's hard. That's hard, that's hard because you can only have but so many conversations with somebody about how they could possibly not be respecting your boundaries or how, you initiated the conversation to even talk about boundaries and they still not respecting it. Um, I feel like this is a lot. This is more so where it comes, the people pleasers. Older siblings go through this as well. First generations, like the only gender in the house, the only girl in the house, the only boy in the house, the youngest, some youngest and middle children. Shoot, all the children, all of us. Okay. But respecting your boundaries. And I feel like that's such a big thing when it comes to family. That's hard, yo. I don't know why it's so hard for older people in your life, whether that be grandparents, whether that be aunts and uncles, whether that be your parents, cousins, your distant cousin from like, I don't know, twice removed or something. It's just like, why you can't. But you want to know something that just dawned on me just now? Honestly, it all honestly starts at home too. It starts with the family. It starts on how people was raised too. So if a person was raised all touchy touchy feely feely, like me personally, I don't like physical touch unless it's from my boyfriend or like it's from I that's as much I'm going. I don't it's really like it, that's another conversation for another day. Okay? But me it's touch. It's physical. I don't need to hug you to confirm. I don't need to. Now, my friends and my man, those are the only two. Those are the only groups of people that's really getting my affection, right? I love them. My shorty doodles and my man and stuff. But that's what I was saying. Sorry. Um, it's just touching. So if a person grew up where they do all the touching and the hugs and the kissing and the this and the that, and you feel me, they're gonna be like that with you and think that you, and it's like not everybody was raised like that. You can't be touching everybody like that. So boundaries is also sometimes learned things too. Some people don't respect boundaries because it's how they were taught or not taught, or someone didn't tell them, hey, that's not okay, or hey, I'm uncomfortable. People just enable the behavior or let the behavior pass, right? So yeah, dealing with people like that, it's difficult. It's really difficult. Sometimes you can move around it, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes you got to keep somebody at an arm's distance. There are people in your life that who don't respect your boundaries, no matter the relationship. But it's like it's not jarring to the point where it's like, I'm about to cut you off, right? But it is to a point where it's like I'm going to have to limit access in my life, because it's not so far fetched where it's like I gotta cut you off and we're no longer friends. It's like, no, you're a great person to be around and I love you, but it's just for some reason there's either miscommunication, no comprehension, or whatever. But for some reason, I just kind of had to keep my arms away from you for a little bit. It's just you're not understanding my boundaries. Maybe we, instead of hanging out 4 times a week, we're gonna start hanging out twice. Something like that. And there are some people where sadly you cannot have that conversation with them about boundaries, and it's not because they're not going to comprehend or understand. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what it is, but you just can't. You can't. But having and setting boundaries with people, especially when they don't respect your boundaries, it's not that you're cutting off all access to them. Half of the time, they could be just genuinely taking that personally. They're taking your boundary that you're setting personally, so that is why they're not respecting it. But that is no excuse to not respect my boundaries. Yes, you feel some type of way about it, but don't mix your feelings and your emotions with what I just told you. Okay, yeah, you're upset, but I still told you don't touch me. You feel me? Like, you being upset and me saying don't touch me can both be true in the same room. Don't do that, please. And yeah, so it's just like having conversations you may not want to have or didn't even think you were going to have. It's kind of like the basis of all of this. The big umbrella here is having a conversation you probably don't even want to have right now. You probably thinking of a conversation right now, and you like, well, damn, she's right. I need to have that conversation with that person. And you're like, it's just this time. Or I have a motto. When it comes to setting boundaries, I have to set some time limits sometimes with either the other person or myself. If I feel like I'm uncomfortable and I'm not feeling right about a conversation, or I'm not feeling right about whatever interaction me and another person had, and that person truly means something to me and I want them to be in my life for real, like that's really, I'm gonna give it maybe like maybe like a 2 week threshold for me and the other person to have a conversation. I think anything after 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks is too far fetched for some people. Some people give it 3 days. 2 weeks, especially when it comes to a friend or a family, whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna give it that. Anything outside that threshold, leave it on the playground. We can still have a conversation about boundaries, but detach your feelings from whatever it stemmed from. Okay? Because at that point, it would be a whole nother thing, a whole nother can of worms that would be opening, or whatever the case may be. So sometimes, if the conversation of boundaries stemmed from something way bigger, try to detach your feelings from that situation when explaining it, because then that person will honestly only attach that boundary with whatever memory or interaction or altercation you and them were in. Literally. Because they're not going to take it as you want them to stop doing this every day or every. No, they're going to take it as you probably only want them to stop doing this when they act like that. Right? And they probably don't think they act like that all the time. So in their head, it's like, so I don't got to stop doing it. You feel me? I hope I'm making sense. I really hope I'm like really making sense, because in my head, I feel like I'm going in a circle right now. Like literally. And I'm really just so concerned on not dragging this out, but I am honestly doing perfect on time. So yeah. But lastly is getting a no, getting rejected, getting the boundary yourself when someone else is putting the boundary in front of you, and how to take it. Because we have this whole type of conversation to tell you how to give the boundaries, but not how to accept them. Yeah, we're going to talk about how to accept, because you can't be a hypocrite. You can't give your boundaries and put it in front of somebody, and then when they do the same thing back, it's like, oh, you're doing the same exact thing they just did, taking it personal. Oh, I'm not gonna do that. Oh, what is she talking about? I personally, if someone comes to me and they came to me about a boundary or about something that they don't like that I did or that I said, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. I'm going to listen to comprehend, listening to everything that they're saying. Because in my head, I know for myself personally, to bring a conversation up to somebody is really a lot for me. It's a lot emotionally, mentally, physically. It's just a lot. So I can only imagine the same thing for somebody else, where it's just like bringing up a conversation about boundaries, or bringing up a conversation, and especially when it's with a person that you probably least expected it to be, or whatever the case may be. But sometimes we can get carried away with our own stuff that we lose sight of everybody else has that same stuff going on too. So just as much as you want to put a point across and want somebody to respect your boundaries, it needs to be vice versa. You know, you have to do the same thing. So that same thing of, don't take it personal. You know, they're probably doing this for the better of themselves, you know, for their best interests. It's not that they're not considering you, but they are more so considering themselves, because that is what they need to do at this current moment. So I don't think that we should be afraid of boundaries that are set in place. And I also want to speak of getting no's and rejections, not only from someone placing a boundary in front of you, but a job. You know, like your job is withholding you back from getting that promotion. There's one step, or there's one something, or whatever the case is. Like, I don't think that we should be afraid of a screen door that is put in front of us, because at the end of the day, a screen door is still see-through. I could still see the other side. It's not that it's black and I can't see, it's opaque. No, it's translucent. I could still see the other side. There's still light shining through. So there's still some time for access. There's still some time for improvement. There's still some time for the water to start coming in, you know? So we should never be afraid of the boundaries that are set in front of you. And just like I said in the beginning of the conversation, where rejection is redirection. So at the end of all of this is, closed mouths don't get fed. You know, no one will know that you have a problem in something unless you speak up about it. I don't want me constantly saying the words boundaries. Like, take a shot for every time I say boundaries. Like, for real. I don't want this conversation of boundaries to only be like telling somebody how you feel, or not telling what. No, that's not just what this whole conversation is about. This conversation is about being able to speak up for yourself, being able to walk in a room confidently and control it. Have that control, being able to control your emotions, being able to control how people talk to you and what they say to you and how they say to you, know, whatever the case may be. That is basically what this whole entire conversation is about, and what I wanted it to be about. So I ask of you to practice saying no. Say no to yourself. Say no to your urges. Say no to your temptations getting out of hand. Practice saying no to show up for yourself. Saying no is another way to show up for yourself and to speak up for yourself. You are showing yourself a ton of love and a ton of light. So yeah, so that was today's conversation. And I really, that was it. Like, I don't, I've been honestly been sitting on it and been thinking of this conversation for a little bit now, but that was really it. That's all I got. Rejection is redirection. Give yourself that trust and that grace and that time. Don't let nobody play with you, but don't play with nobody either. Okay? So, I better do. Let's do my house rules. So we will be dropping again, as you know, every other Monday evening. So this will be coming out on Monday that's coming up, so July 21st at 6:23. So to see what's new, I did add some new segments. I am adding album of the week. This week I think I'm doing Justin Bieber. I think I'm doing Swag. I really like that album. Like, I think that was really Dijon and McGee, and I'm honestly getting into them. I think for like the past like 2 years now, I've been listening to them. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm getting too comfortable. I've been listening to them for like a minute, and I'm like, it's just yeah. But yeah, so that's what the new album of the week is going to be. The last one was the Coco Jones one. That one got 8. I didn't even think I was gonna like it as much as I did. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie. I did not think I was gonna like it as much as I did. But yeah, so if you want to see those updates and what I'm even talking about, you can go on Black Girl Buffering on Instagram and Black Girl Buffering on YouTube to watch what I am speaking of as well. Yeah, I did get a lot of feedback on content and things like that. Listen, I'm not trying to be no influencer. I don't even care about the money about all this. I got a job, okay? I'm not. I honestly am just trying to have fun. Instagram was once a place where I was just dumping photos and doing what I wanted to do and whatever the case may be. And I feel like it's become such a place of just like, ugh, you know? So yeah, so it's not superficial. I'm dead ass. Like, I just want to make it colorful. I just want to take pictures, and honestly, I don't really care too much for. Yeah, I'm getting carried away. So, lastly, if you've been looking for a place to exhale and debrief, you found it. So let's take a breath and begin. Bye.